Beast Quest is an action RPG about a young boy named Tom. His father once held the Beast Journal, a powerful tome that contains the power to control the most wicked beasts in all of Avantia. When the journal falls into the hands of the dark wizard Malvel, the beasts begin to rampage, wreaking havoc across the country. With his father's whereabouts unknown, Tom must take up the mantle and free the beasts from Malvel's dark designs. It's based on an existing book series, but the advertising informed me this was a good place to start without needing to nab any of the novels. I was also told,
if you're fans of action RPGs, if you're a fan of high fantasy, you're gonna love this game.
So really that's all I needed to hear. Without further ado, let's take a dive into this little curiosity. The general tone reminds me a bit of Deltora Quest and Magic Quest alike. It's a sword and sorcery Saturday morning cartoon universe where everyone behaves simply, the magic is never too complex, and the bad villain guys are often painted in clear bad colors. Unlike those other properties, though, Beast Quest decides it would distinctly rather not make any kind of sense. The first real cutscene in the game introduces us to Aduro, the Good Wizard. He literally introduces himself as a good wizard, which is pretty goddamn ballsy. He immediately identifies Tom as the Chosen One for really no particular reason, and then dumps exposition that leaves us with countless questions. Why is Tom the Chosen One? If the beasts are the sacred protectors of Avantia, how do they protect it? Why does the Dark Wizard Malvel keep the beasts a secret if the goal is to wreak havoc? Why is the Beast Journal just sitting in the middle of a rocky path in the mountains? In general, who, why, or what is anything or anyone? You'll only get the barest minimum exposition. The writing also tries far too hard to be quirky in some circumstances. I get the appeal in jabbing fun at established tropes, but not at the expense of all reason or wit. In short, the universe just has no believability. You go from a goofy kid swinging a sword to a bandit murderer in 5 minutes. You can probably time that. No adults are of any use, and your quest is a secret, except when it isn't, for no good reason. It's also incompetently paced and conveyed. The rest of the presentation doesn't fare much better. You can sometimes make the UI disappear by pressing menu buttons in the wrong order. The combat just flat out stops working in some rare instances. Animations look atrocious on average, and the environment often manages to clash with itself. There are hideous glitches and floating chunks of environment everywhere. The soundscape is also unimpressive, and some of the enemy screams can be less than ideal, even distracting enough to genuinely frustrate my roommate Nathan. Overall, no good. It's just very no good. There's no hook to the story, the world feels like a jumbled mess of hitboxes, and it's all comical to watch in action. Being an action RPG, combat makes up the majority of Beast Quest's playtime. The basic premise is simple. Tom and his foes are on a grid, and he can use light attacks, heavy attacks, dodge, block, and to charge powerful blows. This creates a combat dynamic similar to Punch-Out, honestly. Is it as rhythmic or satisfying as Punch-Out? Certainly not, and that's mostly thanks to the RPG side of the equation. Beast Quest has so many enemy types with their own tells and weaknesses that you can circumvent with skilled movement and precision strikes. Or you can just turn on the speed spell and slash away like a whirlwind of death. Or cast that AoE ice magic. Or call on your allies to perform a screen clearing move. Or spam health potions and tank every hit mindlessly. I played through the game on the highest difficulty, and not even once was I presented with a genuine challenge. There were countless ways to break the game's balance, and I used many of them. But hey, at least the combat system is something different, even if it's poorly realized. The game tries to make you play well by incentivizing you with experience gains. In Beast Quest, you ostensibly get more experience from skilled play. Killing enemies without taking damage, killing enemies while executing perfect dodges, and killing multiple enemies in one blow all add multipliers to your experience gain. It's a great concept, but falls flat in practice. You can use spells and RPG mechanics to kill enemies so quickly and easily that getting those multipliers is practically guaranteed. Again, skill never comes into play. Worse still, the more powerful you get, the easier it is to grind, and there aren't really any diminishing returns. You might think the bosses are a saving grace here, and you'd be dead wrong. The first beast, Furno, is genuinely interesting. He telegraphs his attacks clearly, his arena is set up to allow for some creative evasion, and he's tough enough to require that evasion in the first place. Every subsequent boss is progressively easier, until the final boss goes down like a sack of crying babies. On balance, the combat is far too easy, far too simple, and everything special about it is ignorable. Things aren't looking too good, Beast Quest. Of course, Beast Quest also has content and considerations outside the critical path. Let's talk about side quests. You can nab optional objectives from many of the townsfolk. Some of them are laughable. The easy ones involve just nabbing a bushel of items for needy villagers. And I do mean easiest. I really shouldn't get a whopping 50 experience just for running around the world's tiniest village, picking up berries. Some of the better side quests, though, shed new light on the level design and enemy placement. These are few and far between. The best side quest of all, naturally, is Rock Buddy Zoltan. Rock Buddy Zoltan is someone's pet rock, and early on in the game you're tasked with taking Zoltan all around the country to see the sights and hear the sounds. Whenever you enter a new area, you get a little blurb telling you how Zoltan feels. I have absolutely no complaints about this. It's heartfelt and charming. Beast Quest also has environmental exploration, and a tendency to pretend its exploration is more meaningful than it is. All the traversal mechanics involve platforming, ledge climbing, and some scarce block pushing. No real pathfinding, but it at least offers the general sense of adventure. And hey, it's not like it's the bare minimum. The block pushing puzzles naturally get more complex in the icy fields, thanks to the presence of ice physics, for example. You've seen it before, it's downright rudimentary, but it's a little spark of awareness and variety. What about the rewards you get for exploring? Well, they're pretty minimal and streamlined, almost arcadey in design. Everything you can get is visible on your minimap. Chests, keys, collectibles, and enemy encounters. Most of the rewards involve chest hunting, and the chest hunting is almost brain dead. Most chests are just lying out in the open, but there will be at least a couple spots where the curious player will see a distant one and ask, how in the blue hell do you reach that? The actual content of the chests is laughable. All bronze chests give you 20 gold, and silver ones give you 50 gold. You can get that amount in no time just from a few regular enemies. At least the gold chests contain unique items, but there's so little equipment in the game that they feel more like extras. Unlike the combat mechanics and presentation, I feel a little uncertain to say they even tried with the exploration. One of the most enjoyable things about action RPGs can be getting lost in the setting and atmosphere, but there's very little value to be gained by straying from the straight and narrow here. Believe it or not, I've held back a lot of minor criticisms so far that slowly, but surely build up over time. For example, mana potions are meaningless because your mana meter refills far too quickly. There's almost nothing worthwhile to spend your gold on. The platforming flat out looks like Tom's casting a levitation spell. The quest marker royally fucks up with startling frequency and points you in the wrong directions. Chests sometimes require 2 hits just because the first one won't register. Health potions are doled out far too generously. Single enemy encounters are so trivial that they're practically just 10-second wastes of your life. Beast Quest's story is nonsensical, its combat is too easy for its own good, even on the hardest difficulty, and the world is a chore to explore. It's all bad all the way down, and it's held together with scotch tape. It really deserves a reputation on par with something like Ride to Hell, and it's charming for many of the same reasons. I don't recommend it on that alone, though. Goodness, no. Hey, it's the end of the video. Did you know I have a Patreon? It's true! If you grab certain tiers there, you can directly influence what content I make next. Or you can just offer general support. Both are lovely, and some equally lovely people are already signed up. People I will list for you now. My wonderful supporters are Ipompus, Anonymous, Jay, Marth Sinclair, Mighty Minimalist Power Rangers, Sam Anderson, Some Call Me Anto, and Wapoza. A link to the Patreon is in the description. Thank you all so much for your time and thoughts, and I'll talk to you in the next video.